Hi, and welcome to Thriving Beyond Toxic Relationship. My name is Sally Vecchera. I am your host. Today, I welcome Kelly Smith. Kelly is a two-time published author. She is an award-winning writer with the Elephant Journal and HuffPost. Smith is an online expert for the relationship and dating magazine Go Dates. Her published books include In the Rearview Mirror, Leaving a Toxic Relationship Behind, as well as Out of the Darkness, where she expresses her own healing process after a difficult relationship. Smith has now combined her two passions, relationship coaching and writing, into two amazing podcasts, Let's Get Wicked Deep and Writing Away with Kelly. And with that, I welcome Kelly. How are you today?
Thank you so much for inviting me to this today. You are gorgeous. Let's just get that out because everyone is thinking it right now. So I'm so happy to be here with you today. Thriving.
It's to have you.
Yeah, like thriving after a toxic relationship is the goal, right? Something that we're all looking forward to, like when we're in something. So thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it.
No, I thank you for being here with us and sharing your experience so openly. So diving deep into thriving, if you would like to share what your wisdom would be when it comes to that, we could start with during that time period, how did you feel? What was your mindset? What was the experience for you?
So the experience being in the toxic abusive relationship was not fun. It wasn't easy. It was if you want to like kind of think about it in this way, it's like while you're going through something that's painful and dreadful, we don't always acknowledge and recognize that it's painful and dreadful. We kind of get used to it. We get numb. We feel like this is just who we are now. So the things that made us happy don't really make us happy anymore. The things that made us, upset now upset us 10 times more. We're focused less on our kids, Absolutely. Our friends, our family, and we're focused mainly on the person that we're in this relationship with. So we focus, in a sense, it's like trying to be 10 steps ahead of them in order to make it so you're not going to be yelled at, or you're not going to get in trouble. As grown women and grown men, because men are in these relationships too, we are preventing ourselves from getting in trouble. And it's a scary sort of thing. So while I was in this relationship, it was uncomfortable. It felt as if there was something on my chest every day, but I got comfortable with it. So at some point I stopped feeling the uncomfortableness and the pain and sort of just embraced it and accepted it as, I love this person. This is who this person is. So let me just keep working toward making them better. But as we make them better, which they never will be, we make ourselves worse.
Yes.
So one day we wake up and the kids don't want to be around us anymore. Our friends are kind of gone. Our family doesn't want to talk to us anymore because we're all consumed with this relationship that we're bringing it to everyone around us, and people get sick of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I really can relate to and really hear you when you say you really do give your all and you don't realize it. It's almost like we're unaware of it. We're just continue to give. It's almost like we're trying to prove ourselves to someone that can't really see who we are and in reality can't really value us, because in all honesty, we're not valuing ourselves. Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. We're not, because it was like taken away from us. Like when I was in this relationship in particular, my ex-husband said to me, where is the Kelly I knew? Where is that badass that would never let anyone do anything to her? And I looked at him and I was like, I don't know. I think she's gone. And that used to be like the saddest thing, because before I got into this relationship, I was strong. I was independent. I was okay. I could handle myself. And then all of a sudden I'm in this thing and I turn into this like mush of a person with no voice. I had no voice. I had no eyes, no ears. I was able to be seen, but not heard, and seen only if I was wearing certain things. And you just get used to that. You get used to like getting in trouble for wearing a t-shirt. Or can you imagine, which you probably can, being a grown woman and looking at your outfits and saying, what can I wear and what can't I wear? Because if you wear the wrong thing, it's game over and you will never recover from that. And it'll be thrown in your face for years to come. And you really have to double, triple think about how these jeans will fit. Or will another man notice how my chest looks in a somewhat baggy t-shirt? Because if that man notices, ooh, you are in a world of hurt. And it's,
And it gets to a point where you don't even want to be seen.
You don't.
You don't.
Yeah. You end up staying home. You end up just being good, sitting on your couch, wearing stuff in the event that he may call you or show up or come home early and you're wearing something that he doesn't like. And then you will be in a lot of trouble. So you stop seeing your friends. You stop going out. You don't do the things you normally did because it's easier, believe it or not, to give up you as a human than it is to deal with the repercussions. But then when we think about it, and when people hear this, when people hear this is what I experienced, they look at you like you have 10 heads. Like, why wouldn't you just leave? Well, let me take you down that road of why I wouldn't just leave, because it's a road that's filled with so many nooks and crannies. There's so many moving parts to it. And if you don't understand like how these men and women work and how the gaslighting and the manipulation can actually work every day, all day, you'll never understand why someone didn't just leave. We have fear of leaving because you may, oddly enough, get killed. And that's a real fear. I remember after my toxic relationship ended, I woke up a couple times in the middle of the night and he was in my bedroom. And I'm just like, and then sleeping after the relationship was over was difficult because I never knew when he was going to show up. So I moved. And I was like, and that's what this looks like. We don't know. We are afraid because we don't know who we are. They beat us down so much that we feel like nobody will ever love us. We are afraid of getting physically hurt or stalked or worse, which is death. And that's not uncommon that this happens, that you won't survive this relationship that you got into thinking this was a normal human being.
Yes, you begin to start really, really deeply owning the identity of being worthless. Absolutely worthless.
You embrace it, you accept it, and you live it every day. Because if there's a little crack where happiness comes out, they're going to seal that up real quick, and you'll be punished for that.
And it really takes for you to know enough, right? Enough, really see the problem, really start picking up the signs. What is gaslighting, or what is a narcissist, or what is a manipulating person or an abusive person, right? You have to, it gets to a point where you have to look at what's obvious right in front of you, and you have no choice but to look into that. And then once you do, that's when you're able to ask yourself the question, right? What about you? So I want to ask you, when did that moment arrive in your journey? What was it that triggered for you to finally say, what about Kelly, and see that?
So it's a really difficult thing to have like a one moment where you think about you, because if you think about it, it's almost like being buried, say 6 feet under, and each foot is something else that you have to uncover. And it's not until you get to the top where you can actually say, oh my gosh, like what about me? So the day that the toxic relationship, abusive relationship somewhat ended, the day the actual relationship ended, but the love triangle began, I remember laying on the floor in my bedroom, and he had tore up my house, threw over dresses, ruined my bedding, like with the bathroom, tore everything apart. Everything was broken because he was, done with me. So when he had left, I was on the floor in my bedroom, and I was like, what on earth? Like, this is my second failed relationship. What is my accountability? So in those moments of destruction, I was like, what is my accountability? Because this isn't something that is like a fan favorite. But we all have accountability when we're in any relationship, whether it's abusive or healthy, when something ends. So I was like, what was I doing wrong in order for this? So in those moments, I realized I needed to get some kind of help. I had a therapist, but I was going to see my therapist on a regular basis just to talk. I wasn't taking it seriously because I didn't want to hear what he had to say, because I wanted this image of this toxic person to stay pure. And I felt like if I didn't talk about how bad he was to certain people, nobody could talk me out of it. So then I got into a recovery program. In that recovery program was when I finally started saying to myself, what about me? Like, what about me? It was in that recovery program where my eyes were opened enough to acknowledge that when I came home from work, my kids, my 3 kids who were all living with me at the time, in their dad, but they would like leave. They would go their own separate ways. And then I noticed that. I didn't notice that until recovery. And I was like, they leave every time I come home. Oh my God. And then it was when I went to talk to my friends, it was, yeah, no, we don't have time for this, because no one believed that I wasn't going to, put all this on them. And then the biggest moment was my sister. My sister's my best friend. She's like the greatest, aside from her using her Lego thing. But she has these 2 brilliant kids. They're incredible. Okay. And I'm very, very close to them. And my sister told me one day, you are done. You are not going to see me again. Ooh, that's gonna make me emotional. You are not going to see my kids again. Wow. And in that moment, I was mad at her. And I was like, F her. And then I literally what I did, which makes me laugh and not cry, is after she hung up the phone and told me I couldn't see them anymore, I got online and started looking at costumes. So I could wear costumes to go to their practices and go to their games. Wow. So I was in such denial that I was like, she's not going to stop me from seeing these kids. I'm still going to do it. And then when it finally hit me, what is wrong? Costumes? No. Heal this relationship. So in that recovery, I went a while without my sister and without my niece and nephew. And it was the most painful part of my life because they are a huge part of my life. So in that recovery process, I was able to acknowledge that she was right. She told me, she's like, I have to protect my kids from you. And that has to be like the scariest thing to hear when you're not a violent, horrible person, but you're bringing the image to the people around you. So after that, I asked her if I could come back, and she said, you can come back on a trial basis.
Oh, I honor you for sharing that, because that is really beautiful. And I really love how you broke it down, how it really took not only to see the signs that this doesn't feel right for you, but the fact that it's so powerful when you said you took accountability. You took accountability, and that created a passageway for you to start the healing, because then you actually seeked out, even if it was just a conversation, even if you wasn't taking it serious with the therapist and everybody else, but you allowed yourself to open up, where once you open, you can see, you could be accountable. And, I won't say it's sad, but I know it was difficult when your sister said what she said, because she loved you, but she had to love her more and her children to do what was best for them. And that was enough of a shake for you to wake up and say, okay, enough. Like you really heard her enough, you picked up, and you then really took the most difficult step, which was to be isolated. Right. To give you time and stop looking for outside sources, and really just be alone for that one moment. And only then did you start your healing process. So that's beautiful.
Thank you so much. It was, it's hard because when we are the ones in the relationships, we can't see what we're doing to others. So I often say, which is not a fan favorite again, is it's very selfish to be in a toxic relationship, right? Where we're commandeering all the time. We're commandeering all the effort. We're taking all of it, and we can't see it. Now, I'm not saying that like it's our fault, but it's also like at some point when we're ready to get out, we have to acknowledge, oh, I took over your whole life with this. Let me see how I can fix it. So that's where like this man or woman did X, Y, and Z, and now we have to clean up a mess in a sense we didn't make. So, and that was my accountability to my sister. So after I got my sister back on my trial basis, and I worked really hard to get that back. And now we're best friends again. And it's the best. And I'm so happy. But then I had to work on my brother. Then I had to work on my friends. And then I had to work on the other people. So I live in Austin. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. So at one point I got on a plane and I spent a couple weeks on tour asking for forgiveness to my friends and family that I hurt throughout this process. And they all accepted me back, no problem. And since then, I haven't been in a toxic relationship, so it's been great. And they're a great support system because I acknowledged that I was wrong. I actually healed while healing in, a very good amount in order to earn things back from them. So it wasn't easy to face my brother. It wasn't easy to face my sister, but I did it because I knew I had to. And because these relationships were so valuable to me that I wanted to keep them. I have 2 nieces and 2 nephews. And if I wasn't able to have them in my life,
Yes.
I don't know how that would look. And of course my siblings are amazing as well, but it was definitely difficult.
I have a question. When you went through, each family and, family member and friend, and you asked for their forgiveness, was part of your process also forgiving yourself as you went along?
It was, and there were some things that I can't forgive myself for, but struggle to forgive myself with. So with my sister, I feel okay. With my brother, I feel okay. Now with my kids,
Mm-hmm.
very different situation, because, I'm a mom, obviously, and we're very protective of our kids. But when we're in these situations, we can't see what we're doing to our kids. We
Yeah.
can't see what they're missing and what they're lacking. And when the fog cleared and I saw my 3 kids with their brown eyes just looking at me,
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know. I work on it all the time. So it's not that I'm not working on it, but I'm working on it to forgive myself for putting them in certain situations. Kids should never, ever have to pick their mom up off the floor.
Yeah.
They shouldn't. And that is in my first book that I wrote, Signs in the Rearview Mirror, Leaving a Toxic Relationship Behind. I wrote about that. I hate that chapter because
Oh,
it brings back so much. But the best apology is changed behavior. So now I do what I do essentially for my kids, to say, this is where I messed up, but this is what I'm doing for accountability. And I'm going to try to help other people to realize that it's not fair to
mhm.
not acknowledge our kids. But like I said before, it's not our fault. Like, it's not like we chose to do this. It's the manipulation, the love bombing, the gaslighting that turns us into something different. But when you realize it's happening, it's your responsibility to get out and heal it.
Mhm. So I can connect with that as well. It becomes where you feel guilty or shame of the type of parent that you are during that time frame. But it really takes for you to find the compassion in yourself and realize that if you really truly could have done better, you would have done better, and
Yes.
really understand that you did your best because you were in survival mode.
Yes.
And that kind of gives you the way to find healing and be willing to heal and be willing to forgive yourself. And yes, I agree with you, that it is a work in progress and it
Yes.
does take time. And I commend you for that. Now, looking back, what can you say after you realized all these things and you saw and you did the forgiveness? What were the new habits that you started picking up, or something that you became aware of that then you took on where you weren't doing before, but now you started to do for yourself? If you
I
could
think
think.
with the things that I kind of picked up, I learned a lot in my recovery program. It was feeling it, feel
Mhm.
it, regardless of what it is. And even though I've been removed from this toxic relationship for, oh my gosh, over 7 years, obviously it stays with you. And also because of what I do, in order to help people. But the
Yeah,
biggest takeaway I recognize is to feel it and to
feel.
listen to that gut.
Mhm.
So that's like the biggest thing. And it's like, you have to feel whatever it is, even if it's with your friends, hurt your feelings, feel it, don't react to it, feel
Mhm.
it, and then heal it. So that was one of the biggest things. And then with the healing process it's one day at a time,
Yes.
it's one situation at a time. It's knowing what you want, learning. This is a big one.
Yeah.
Learning to use the word no.
Oof. Yes.
That was the
Boundaries.
biggest thing. Yes. And every time I say no, I get giddy. I'm like, oh, I just did it. And, in the beginning, it was, I would call my therapist or send him a text message, because at one point I did start using my therapy for actual therapy. And he said
Of
to me
course.
on that day, he's like, welcome. He's like, you finally showed up. And I've been seeing this man for over 10 years consistently. So, and
Wow.
he's like, finally, here you are. And I'm like, yes, here I am. So when I would have a breakthrough, a victory of saying no to someone, even if it's like, do you want to go out to get pizza? No. And
Hmm.
they're like, okay, thanks. Because it's scary to say no, because you don't, in
Yeah.
those relationships, if you said no, ooh, your head would come off. But
Yes.
not everyone is out to get you, which is another thing that I learned was, you can say no, you can say yes, but no one is out to get you in the same way the toxic person was out to get you. So when you do say no and you get used to saying no, you're going to realize very soon that you're not going to be punished for it. That
Yes.
no one's going to yell at you or stop talking to you or hit you or any of those things, because you can say no. So that was the the biggest, most exciting thing with that. And then learning how to make decisions on my own, where I get to make, it goes from, oh, I want to make decisions to, oh no, now I have to make decisions. But it's, and then after a while, it's like, yeah, I get to make this decision with, you know, anything that I want. And if I succeed or fail, I'm doing this on my own. There's no one pulling the puppet strings anymore. Now it's just me. It's scary, but you know, I would suggest going to make a big decision and see how it feels.
And this actually answers my next question I had for you, which was if you could say the one thing that made all the difference to finally feel truly free. And obviously setting boundaries is huge. And as you say, the more comfortable you become saying no, then you really take accountability for the decisions you're making, which really gives you an empowering feeling at the end of it all. So if you can add any other tools or strategies or, you know, new way of thinking that maybe might have helped to finally feel free at the end of it all.
So just like a couple things is the one big thing to do when you're coming out of this, because you can relate, I can relate, so many can relate, is you have to decide. Decide. If you wait for him or her to say, I'm done with you, it will never happen. So you have to decide. Another thing with toxic, abusive relationships is a lot of women and men, because I'm guilty of it. I don't know if you are, but at the end, I was like, I just need closure. I just need him to admit that like he did this to me and then I feel better. No, they're not going to admit anything. So closure in this situation is something you decide. It's not something you get. It's something you decide, where you have to be the one that's like, I'm done. Like, I'm not doing this. And then rely on that support system. Sometimes you have it, other times you don't. But if you find yourself in a situation where you don't have a support system, call me. I will help you to be a support system. But it's trying to set that up and saying to some people, hey, I'm about to leave, but they won't believe you because we've done this. It's revving our engine a couple times. But when you're ready to go, it's deciding that it's time to go. And then it's deciding that you have closure, because you will never get closure from a person like that because they don't believe what they did to you is true.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. That's huge. Everything you just said. Absolutely. The decision is key. That's everything.
It is.
If you don't make the decision, you're giving all that power to somebody else. And so you really, and the way you claim it back is making the choice, making the decision and sticking with it no matter what. Really commit to that decision and start taking action. So I absolutely agree. Now, once you arrive to the other side, once you're free, once you've done your healing, what can you say you came across, you know, that you realized from the relationship it could be, or, you know, once we're thinking, oh, we're going to leave this relationship, now we're in the other side. And at first it really looks really scary and foreign to us, but now we're here, right? We're in the other side. We broke free finally. What can you say? Was it as scary as you first thought of, or how are you feeling now, or the time shortly after everything was said and done? You make the choice, you committed, and once he really got that message.
So I compare the decision to leave almost the same thing as, say, a bride, right? Who is spending a year every day, all day planning her wedding. The wedding happens. She's super happy. The next day, she feels empty AF. She feels useless. What have I been doing? There's no more chaos. So what you can expect is, and this is what usually brings the people back to the toxic person, is once that person is done and that morning phone call isn't there, or that morning wake up and storm out isn't there anymore, we feel lost. We feel useless. We feel like, what's the point of this? At least, we say to ourselves, at least he needed me. And now I feel useless. So that's to be expected. That's very, very normal. When the chaos is finally gone and you're able to just sit and be still, you have not, I don't care how long you've been in this relationship for, you have not been still since it started. And feeling still is so scary. And that is that little space where we get desperate. Wait, what if what he said was right? What if I'm not lovable? What if no one likes me? What if, blah, blah, blah. But if you can make it through that what if phase, on the other side of that is going to be, you're facing the barrel of healing. And it's not easy. Of course, it's not easy. It's very difficult because we have to relive a lot of stuff. But in the same way, like when you're in your a weight loss process, every week you go in, you lose 1 pound, you lose 2 pounds, and then your jeans fit better, and then your shirt feels better, and then someone hit on you, and the process at the beginning, it sounds like I have to lose 30 pounds. Ugh. But then once we lose 3, once we lose 7, we're like, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We keep going. So it's the same sort of thing. So we keep going because now our friend we haven't talked to invited us out. Oh, wait, do we just laugh? Oh my gosh, we just laughed, where it's like all these things start to come together and then we just keep going. But in every relationship, they do try to come back. And for me, it was 8 months in.
Wow.
And he showed up at my house on Christmas Eve and he cried and he told me all this stuff while his girlfriend was pregnant. So it was like, and that was it. That was the last time. I had gone 8 months, no contact, didn't talk to him, didn't see him, none of that. Then he showed up one day on my door. And then when he did, I went into my book. It was a chapter in my book where I'm like, ooh, let me just go ahead and write down how I feel about this. Yeah. Because I had gone so long and my life was so bright and so happy that even seeing him brought everything down. So I was like, I cannot believe that he's just here after 8 months. So, and then it gave me something to kind of laugh about, where I went to a Christmas Eve party and I said, you're not going to believe what this happened. So it went from like destruction to gossip. Yeah. Like, can you believe this freaking guy shows up on Christmas Eve? And then you move on and you play Uno cards with your friends and you're in your pajamas and life is great. So, but it doesn't happen overnight. It happens day by day, hour by hour, sometimes minute by minute, but it's gathering that strength, which is why getting a support system for healing. And if we get into a support system where people just start talking about our toxic exes, then you stay there. Yeah. And we need to get a support system where it's like, no, let's heal. Let's do this. Let's do that.
I love that. And it's true. I mean, there's a lot of great nuggets you just gave, which is the fact that you allowed yourself to be isolated and really heal. And then when he came along 8 months later, it was validation. Yeah. It served as a validation of your growth, right? Because you didn't really, so you weren't really realizing everything that was shifting and changing and the growth that had taken place until he popped in and you realized, wow, I'm no longer, attached to this, that codependency. And the fact that you wrote it down really also helps. That's another helpful tool, part of the healing process. And most importantly, I loved when you mentioned the fact that you got an amazing supportive system, because if you do continue to talk to those people, those friends, those family members that are stuck on the past that you're trying to break free from, they will aid you in a very negative way. Well, they'll backtrack you back to what you don't want. And it's a very huge, great impact to get those people that are pushing you along. And I guess the biggest catch is having a vision. Where do you want to see yourself and how do you get there? And who are the people that are surrounding you to get there? So I really do appreciate all the information and the input you gave today and the wisdom. If there's any last thing you would like to share for the viewers that you feel is crucial, that you would like for them to know, maybe that one thing that you would have loved or someone during that time frame to had guided you or told you then that you would have liked to know then that you didn't know, but you do know now, what would that be?
Well, that's a difficult one, right? Because as we all know, getting into something, we always think we're the game changer, like we're different. Yeah. Like, oh, he was like that, but not with me. And that's false. You are not the game changer. Let's just say you are not the game changer, because it has to do with not that you are not an incredible, amazing human, because you are, but it has everything to do with him. So, but coming out of this toward the end, the best advice I have for people, men and women, is to not date. Do not date. Do not throw yourself in a situation where you are not ready, because not only will you hurt you in your healing, you will hurt that other person unnecessarily. So oddly enough, in my second book, Out of the Darkness, I wrote about dating too soon because I felt pressure, because he had me in a love triangle and he was with someone else. And I was like, well, if he's with someone, I should be with someone. Society loves to tell us that we are not lovable unless we're in a relationship. Society can go F itself. So when you are coming out of something, take that time, exactly like what you keep saying, isolate, like work on the relationships you have with your family, your friends, work on that, work on yourself, but do not date because it's too soon. Do not have a hookup. Do not go for coffee. Do not say it's just one drink, because it's not, because you are not ready. You are not ready yet. You are a cake that was just you're a cake batter. You are a cake batter right now, and the oven isn't even warm yet. So let's, slow your roll and wait until the oven at least heats up a little bit before you think you can jump back into dating, because you are not healthy enough to date right now. So that is the biggest thing that I can tell people, is don't do it. And read my book and see all my mistakes, live through my mistakes, and then you don't have to make your own.
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. I thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing all your thoughts. If any of you viewers would like to follow Kelly, you can find more about her at www.bebravecoaching.org. And if you just write down in the comments section your takeaways, your insights, and what you appreciated of today's Kelly's information and wisdom that she shared with us. Thank you so much for being here, Kelly.
Thank you so much for having me. It was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Take care.